All right, finally returning to finally replying to old comments. This is part 18 now. And I think the reason I've been gone away so long, the overarching reason is because all the new technologies, they don't make life any simpler or less complicated. They make individual tasks simpler and easier while making life itself overall more complicated. Mike, are you saying you'd rather go live in the time of the cavemen? Maybe not because I was born in this time, but I'll tell you one thing, those cavemen definitely had much, much more free time because they left their continent. Some stayed and some left, but they had the choice and the freedom to do so because they didn't have to update their terms and conditions and get the latest model. They had complete control over their environment, and no outside force was coming in to disrupt their flow of their advancements. Unlike the new technology that comes out every year, every month, every week, every day, and you have to relearn new things. And that's just the future. I mean, we have to evolve as a species, right? So you have to keep up with things getting more complicated and having less free time, or you're just a thing of the past. So, speaking of keeping up with the newest technology, let's read some comments. The one from finally replying to old comments, part 17, there was one comment from Megatinny. Megatinny, Megatinny. Megatinny said, a spoken train of thoughts on whether your parents are the most entitled to kill you. Only on this channel. It's hard to find channels that allow themselves to still have an actual opinion and speak freely, uncensored thoughts. I try to avoid fakery during the time I spend online. I want to hear original opinions only. You know, when I read something like that, I feel the pull of, wow, you have to be more outrageous. You have to say some things that are really out there. That's what's making people like you. You have to really go for it. Go out there, go crazy. And then it's like, I start to imagine saying things that I don't even really believe anymore just because it would be considered an uncensored thought, speaking freely. I can say anything because I'm speaking freely. So I don't know why I pointed that out, other than I think a lot of entertainers, even though I'm not an entertainer, when that goes out, I think they feel that pull, and a lot of them succumb to it. And because I don't make any money on this, it's not my livelihood. I don't have to, I can resist that pull. I'm not saying Megatinny here is trying to pull me in that direction. It's actually a great compliment that there is so much fakery. Like they used to say, you can find anything online, ask any question, and the internet has the answer. Well, it's mostly misinformation now. And I don't know how much misinformation there was then, but from the time I've been on the internet, it seems to be a trajectory of the misinformation is increasing. So we have to kind of stay rooted in reality somewhere because you're much more vulnerable to fall for scams and schemes and higher powers telling you things that aren't true. So you just go along with the other lemmings off the cliff. Unless you have your feet firmly planted in the roots of reality. Like, look at Grant Amato. He floated off into the clouds on the fantasy of the internet world and did the stupidest thing allowable under the current laws of physics and the observable universe. But anyway, continuing on with Megatinny's comment here. Megatinny says, I don't know who the penguin is. I'm not sure I want to. And that's it. The penguin that I was referring to in the last video was Penguin Zero, because I made a video called Penguin Zero at 40, where I do an impression of him. And if you like this channel for all those reasons you mentioned, about how you don't like fakery, Penguin Zero is also a good channel. He's maybe the best social media commentator in that he exaggerates as much as anyone, but it's all in service of the truth and having, like, I don't want to say moral high ground because that makes it sound like he's a stuffy superior, thinking he's better than everyone. It's just he tells the news, basically the news of the internet, the way that the news should tell the news, with honesty. And if you're going to exaggerate, it's in service of the truth, not in service of your private agenda. So that's who the penguin is, Penguin Zero. So moving on to where we left off in the comments section of his master plan revealed, part 8. The next one up was a long comment from Moonstars315. Moonstars315 said, I agree, keep them coming. I love your content. You are very good at this. Thank you. You really have a way of giving different perspective that many times I didn't stop to consider or notice. I'd like to hear you do a series on laundries. You mean Brian Landry, or is it Landry or Laundry with Gabby Petito? The family dynamic and what may have happened with everything that has come out about the case. Another tragic and puzzling case. All of these cases where it didn't need to happen the way it did, and you just can't understand how these cases are as tragic as they are. People like Shanann, Gabby Petito, didn't have to die. There were so many other possible outcomes to make everyone happy and not suffer the loss. Their poor families lost their loved ones. For what? That's what I'd like to try and understand. Why? It's scary when you don't see this kind of craziness coming. You just can't wrap your mind around them, and you want to try to understand because it could happen to anyone, even good people next door, even me, all of us. Crazy stuff. All true. I think that's the main interest is we wonder if it could happen to us and we try to protect ourselves from it happening. And about 1% of the population looks at it as a competition, like I could get away with that. But yeah, the Brian Landry case and Gabby Petito, there's some weird things about it. I haven't seen enough about it to want to do a deep dive. It kind of seems like it's gotten brushed under the rug because when I tried to find out some of the answers, I haven't really come across anything enlightening. It's kind of like the Chris Watts case. When you see the first details, it's just confusing and makes no sense. Like, why are the parents protecting the son? Why wouldn't they be trying to help law enforcement? But that's just one report of what happened. Maybe it happened completely different in real life. But there is no footage that I've been made aware of how that happened when the police were questioning Brian Laundrie's parents, of how it really happened. Like, we had all that footage with the Chris Watts case, so it was easier to kind of dive in and find out what was really going on. So maybe it would be worth, if more stuff comes out, I would probably want to look into it just to get those answers that haven't been answered yet about that case. But in all fairness to law enforcement, there's a never-ending stream of dumb people doing dumb things that they have to solve the crimes. They keep coming, keep coming, keep coming. They don't have infinite time in some vacuum to just solve one crime until it's done. They have a new one coming, and then they have to move on to the next one. If there's no more further steps in the one they were working on, they move on to the next one, as far as I understand it. Sadly, when at the time when the Chris Watts' wife and kids were missing still, there was a guy in my area who stole his infant daughter, and that didn't end well either. But that didn't get national coverage. So there's billions of people in the world, millions of criminals. No one person can keep up on all of them. But we'll see. Next up, Jordan Lever, 7857, says, Watts definitely premeditated these murders. He said when he put the girls to bed on Sunday night, he thought to himself that it was the last time he would be tucking his babies in. He is one sick dude. Yeah, that's right. That reference was from the book Letters from Christopher, where he admitted to a lot more of the disturbing details because he thought it would get more sympathy for himself. That now he's taken this angle of the devil made him do it, and he's just an innocent vessel that the devil took over. Which, by the way, if that's true, you should still be in prison for the rest of your life, because if the devil can just take you over and you are absolutely powerless to stop it, then what's going to stop the devil from taking over your body again? Sorry, Chris, doesn't help. But anyway, yeah, I think my series went into that, of more so than just Sunday night. He was planning the actual crime that he committed weeks or months ahead of time, and the seeds that led to him planning that crime go back years, which I covered in those details in the beginning of the series. So up next, Janet Phillips had a comment, but I replied to it already. And then Janet Phillips had another comment after that I did not reply to, so let me reply to it now. Daffy Duck. Janet Phillips said, BTK, the serial killer, did those mouth noises in court. Well, Janet Phillips, that's an interesting connection you're making there. As annoying as the mouth noises are, I sure hope that there's no connection between killers and mouth noises, because sometimes I make mouth noises. And, well, let's just say I'm breaking that streak of killers doing mouth noises so far. Let's keep the run going. Up next, Jamie Gray said, I had picked up Chris seemed unduly resentful of Celeste. I thought it was because of her joyful independence, parentheses, unlike Bella, who seemed intuitively compliant, gentle, and trusting, which was bothersome and taxing on his mask. I think you mean bothersome and taxing on his mask was Celeste's joyful independence. The conflict over the Celeste plus nuts between Shanann and Chris's mother seemed like the breaking point he decided to permanently drop the mask with his family. Well, as relates to that, as I just said, he was already planning the crime long before that, as his family called it, Nutgate, where they put nuts around Celeste, who was deadly allergic to nuts. And that led to a big blow up with Shanann wanting to protect her children from Chris's family, Chris's parents and sister, because they were willing to put her children in danger. And Shanann wanted to, so there's a shine like Shanann moment, to go back to the last video where I questioned why you would shine like Shanann, but then I gave an example. Well, here's another example. She wanted to protect her children from the dangers that other people were putting them in. So where did I leave off here? Yeah, I don't think it was the breaking point. I wouldn't go that far. At best, I would say it was yet another example that he should go through with it. Maybe he was still on the fence at that point when Nutgate happened, his family blowing up and having arguments with Shanann, and his family was always against Shanann, and Chris was already planning to murder Shanann and the kids, which makes you wonder, was he just finishing his parents' job when they tried to put the nuts around Celeste? But anyway, I think it was just another, yep, I just have to do this. All these things, like he talks about the bad luck soup in the prison interview, all these things just led me to having no choice but to murder my wife and kids, is what Chris ended up going with. And that's probably yet another example that went into his mindset and said, well, I just have to do this. So finally, to wrap up Jamie Gray's comment, no, kitty, no, kitty, kitty, kitty. Yeah, just lay down there, lay down there. Still going? Okay. Oh, kitty. Okay, Jamie Gray. Great spotting on the weight gain plus blaming Celeste. Imagine being resentful of your child before she was born. Yep, he definitely had some issues. I wonder if he was resentful of the child before she was even born because he was sensing that Shanann was going to be a better mother than his mother was to him, like more loving, more compassionate. And he kind of, he said that's not fair. She's not going to raise them right. They're going to be spoiled. And that led to the resentment. I'm talking about him like he's a normal parent now, but obviously he had some problems where he wasn't able to compartmentalize that thought in a healthy way and communicate it with Shanann. He had major communication issues. But thanks for the comment, Jamie Gray. Moonstars315 has another comment. How much time we got? Okay. My comment that you didn't like was just for discussion. I'm not trying to push my opinion on anyone, just stating the knowns and what I believe given the evidence. For the record, I didn't dislike it. I just maybe didn't give it the heart where I push the button and it shows my profile picture with the heart next to it. It might have been, as I stated in the video, I gave reasons why I wouldn't give a heart. And I stated it in this series too, something like, someone might leave a nice comment, but then they ended with, and the whole Watts family should burn in hell. It's like, whoa, I don't know if I want to put the heart right after that. I was with you up until the end there, but then it was a little intense. So I don't think I disliked your comment. It just maybe I didn't give it that strong of an endorsement for one of those reasons. But moving on to Moonstar's comment, it gets frustrating when you see all these signs of something and law enforcement don't care about them, or the fact that this case just came to a halt as far as investigation goes because of Chris's plea. Even Tammy said that she was thinking, wait, we're not done yet, in Criminal Confessions. Yeah, I remember seeing that. Yeah, you should do that. You should offer your knowns and what you believe given the evidence, because it can lead to further dissection and discussion in the case. So I wasn't saying you shouldn't do that. And like I said with the other comment, they had to move on. This was, like I said, also in another comment, there was other cases like this going on at the same time in the same country. So it's not like law enforcement was just sitting around and had only this one case to work on and then someone else came in and stopped them. They probably had other jobs to move on to. Although I would be willing to hear someone's opinion on if there was a higher power that came in and stopped the investigation. Like, I know you're saying what you said there with Chris's plea, that stopped the investigation. Well, he's pleading guilty, so you can stop looking now. We don't have to look into it any further. And that's why Chris finally pled guilty, so they wouldn't find any more evidence of how horrible he was. So there was that, but, they went back and got the prison interview and got even more evidence against Chris anyway. So good job, Tammy and Graham. And good job, Moonstars 315, for bringing up what you notice. That is what the community should do. DB2637 said, you bring up so many aspects that I never considered. Thanks. So I still believe that CW had this puppet type of personality. His mom, SW, NK all controlled him. Maybe the decision of the demise of his kids didn't come until that night when I believe, NK and Jim had pivotal roles with what happened. Yeah, he wanted SW gone from the urging of NK. So it happened. I still don't see the hatred for their kids. He indeed did play a victim a lot. They would throw chicken McNuggets at him at dinner. Water balloon prank? Well, he may have felt like they were little SWs and his life would always be mocked. I still think NK was pulling his strings. Well, for my reply to that, see the entire His Master Plan Revealed series, followed by the entire Loving Family Man, I Think series. All of these comments, DB's comment here, along with every other comment that vaguely alludes to the mistress being the puppet master. Why do none of you ever give any evidence? So if there's no evidence and yet you believe it. So, like the last comment, state your opinions, but how about stating it as like, we should look into this more, or did you notice this or that or the other thing? Nothing is being stated to support this idea that Chris was just the helpless puppet master on everyone else's strings. I know I've already said this, but I would believe the mistress would go as far as she would be rotten enough to be amused by the idea that maybe I can get him to kill his family. Wouldn't that be hilarious? Oh, I bet I could do it. Let me see. Let me pull his strings some more. But other than references here and there to, I wanted to be your first, I wanted to give you my first son, I wanted to, blah, blah, blah. Weren't you going to do that for me? And, Chris would be easy to manipulate because he only goes by what he sees in front of him and has a extremely limited view of the big picture. However, physical involvement, I'm still waiting to hear or see any kind of evidence of that, which I'm open to. It's just that no one who vaguely refers to the fact that the mistress was directly involved ever gives any evidence. The references are to things that are undetermined, like the shadow, that was the mistress, when really it was more likely to be one of the kids that he was reaching down to pick up and put in the back of the truck. Or the car driving by, that could have been anyone. Well, but her car pinged in Frederick at 6:45. That was an hour after when the car went by. So, keep looking into it. Just, make some. Sorry, had to stop the video there. Just maybe change the wording a little bit from I truly believe with all of my heart that the mistress was, change it from that to have you considered this? What about this? Could that, the thing there that we don't know about, possibly be this? You don't want to get the mob going after something that's not real. Going back to the beginning of this video where we talk about having our feet firmly planted in reality so that we're less susceptible to being tricked by higher powers and lower powers too. Did I say that? That might have been in one of the versions where I just turned it off after a couple seconds. But anyway, I think I'm going a little long here, so have a nice day, and that's it. I'll see you next time in part 19.